Hello, viewer. Today we're going to discuss Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, and his relationship with psychedelics like LSD and or shrooms. Here on Soberdelic Addiction Recovery live stream, weekdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome to those of you who are new, and as well as those of you who are returning. Thank you for your subscriptions, your viewership, and your help. Every day I stream here at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we exchange, you and I exchange notes and tips on life and recovery. Wow, my coffee just turned up the music. Me coffee just turned up the music. Did Bill W. take LSD? Yes, according to my research and conclusion. We will dive into various articles. This one is from inverse.com. This is one of the better articles I found. I also have a link to Psychedelics in Recovery 12-step meetings, practicing the 12 steps, the principles, with psychedelics and plant medicines in your recovery. If you know about this channel, that's basically what it has become. I got sober 6 years ago, and like a year ago I started smoking weed and doing mushrooms. I don't feel like I'm my childish, addicted self. I feel more like the adult that has cautiously chosen this path. Now, Bill Wilson, well, let's read what it says from inverse.com. Bill Wilson, in quotes, says, now, if you don't know, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob founded Alcoholics Anonymous around 1939. And there's a couple traditions, and there's a couple things that you mind while you're in the rooms. And one is you don't, other substances are not talked about, but they're also not encouraged in full sobriety from addiction and alcoholism. And I can tell why there was some debacle when Bill Wilson took it in the 50s. But let's read. It's August 29th, 1956. It's August 29th, 1956. That's where we're going to picture ourselves. A philosopher, a psychiatrist, and his research assistant watch as the most famous recovering alcoholic puts a dose of LSD in his mouth and swallows. The man is Bill Wilson, and he's the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, the largest abstinence-only addiction recovery program in the world. By the time the man millions affectionately call Bill W. dropped acid, he's been sober for more than 2 decades. His experience would fundamentally transform his outlook on recovery, horrify AA leadership, and disappoint hundreds of thousands who had credited him with saving their lives. Wow. Bill Wilson, the founder, co-founder, one of the 2 co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, the most successful. It worked on me and my diabolical drinking. Death was what I was going to experience if I kept drinking. How you doing, Lorena? Is that the name of the doctor he did it with? But let's read on, because look, a while ago I got sober, and 6 years I finally was able to maintain sobriety 6 years ago. But before that, 10 years, I've been attending AA meetings for almost 2 decades. And let me tell you, you don't talk about acid in there. I can't remember a AA meeting where we talked about acid or psychedelics. I spent almost 5 years going to AA meetings. I had a home group. Good for you, Matub. I recognize your name. That's big. That's huge. That's half a month. It's not about the time. Time means something, but it's not the thing that means the most. What means the most is your mental state. So how are you doing? Oh, okay. All right, Lorena. Hey, there's Stevie. How you doing, Stevie? 5 for Tertia. Yeah, and I cannot stress this enough. Stress what enough? Oh, well, thank you, Stevie. I even, well, I'm not going to tell you my secrets. Yes, Bill had depression, struggled a lot. Now, you can buy books on the story of Bill W. And, however, I would like to read on. I haven't read this article yet, but I can tell by looking at it. I have a knack for finding reliable and credential information. Yeah, he went on. So he went on to disappoint hundreds of thousands who had credited him with saving their lives in 1956. Bill Wilson, who had created Alcoholics Anonymous in around 1939, the book was written. So 15 years later, dropped acid. Disappointed those who credited him with saving their lives. Why? In my personal observation and simple opinion, the government went on an anti-acid campaign when people that were dropping acid wouldn't go to Vietnam. That's my simple opinion. Makes sense to me. Now, in the year 2023, lo and behold, and to the much dismay of the government, psychedelics have mucho benefits, including but not limited to treatment for untreatable disorders and diseases like depression and anxiety that have only been treatable with heavy therapy and prescription medications that people get hooked on, like Xanax, one of my personal frenemies. PIR shizzle. What's that all about? Let's read on. Bill says, I am certain that the LSD experience has helped me very much. Wilson writes in 1957, I find myself with a heightened color perception and an appreciation of beauty, almost destroyed by my years of depression. Almost destroyed is the sensation that the partition between here and there has become very thin is consistently with me. And that's a consistent report from those who have been on acid, LSD. What separates you from me is no longer there, and what separates me from the trees, even sometimes people report the air, the floor, space, everything is one. And I can concur. That happened to me on the ounce of mushrooms trip, when I instantly got over some guilt, some shame, because I realized we're all one and we all do our best. Yet Wilson's sincere belief that people in abstinence-only addiction recovery programs could benefit from using a psychedelic drug was a contradiction that AA leadership did not want to entertain. AA leadership. This is one reason why I don't abide by the traditions of AA. I did, as a matter of fact. I knew Bill had taken acid years ago. I mean, you hear it every once in a while. I wasn't ready to look into it because I was in fully abstinence land of this is my life for 4.5 years. Fully abstinent. No acid, no mushrooms, no cannabis. I didn't even, when I had my back surgery, I told them no opiates, no narcotics. If you watched my signs of relapse video, you will know that they sent me home with Norcon, a narcotic that almost leveled me. Yeah, Lorena, that's right. It's like a pill. It's like a drinking pill form. Thumbnail brought you here, huh? Yeah, well, I constructed it myself. Hey, I tell you, Edna, or E.T., a theory of mine is that the cross in the background, and I cropped the cross in, will catch some attention. I hope the thumbnail is the bill with the cross behind him, because sometimes it doesn't do it. Okay, so he says, my last drink was on, this is Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, every single recovering alcoholic on Earth's hero. I mean, once you get to know AA, because AA, the 12 steps, some people think it was a divine intervention from something divine on mankind itself, because the 12 steps work when nothing else does. So, the backlash eventually led to Wilson reluctantly agreeing to stop using the drug. It also may be why so few people know about Wilson's relationship with LSD. More broadly, the scandal reflects a tension in AA, which touts abstinence above all else and the use of mind-altering drugs as anti-theoletical to recovery. I know because I spent over a decade going to 12-step meetings, says the author of this article. My last drink was January 24th, 2008, is the person writing this article. Like the millions of others who followed in Wilson's footsteps, much of my early sobriety was supported by 12-step meetings, as is mine and some of the people that are regulars on this show, my show. And this writer agrees their life improved immeasurably, as did mine when I started following the principles of AA. This, well, thank you, Ty. This stream is all about the principles of LA may have been not conceived. Let me get one thing straight. The principles of LA were not, the principles of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, were not conceived on LSD. That's not what we're saying. There is no question that that is not what happened. In 1939, they wrote the steps, or around there, and the book, which contains everything the recovering alcoholic needs to know to recover. Sustain recovery. This book is straight up and down amazing. This is the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Some called lovingly the big book. And I think Bill had a hand in writing it. So the controversy was this. What is Bill Wilson, the founder of AA and the writer and the person who many people attribute for getting sober? In 1956, he drops acid. Oh man, that must be chopping up. Oh man, that's my internet. All right. Are you guys getting a good clear stream? Because Stephen Foss says Bill Wilson broke off from the Oxford group and borrowed the first 6 steps. Eventually he will ride the 6 remaining, making 12. Yes, he did experiment with LSD. Right. I have no question that he did. I don't think anybody does. There was people in AA that basically it's like this. Hey, When I've had people, well, you know, Bill Wilson. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is because this channel name used to be called Sober James. I was Mr. AA. I was AA. I did 90 and 90 multiple times. That's 90 meetings in 90 days at the beginning of your sobriety. I've done that multiple times. I've done a year without sex or dating twice. I've done the 12 steps a couple times. I think I need to do them again. But this is relevant to what I'm going through right now because the Sober James channel turned into the Soberdelic James channel a year and a half ago or so when I dropped that live stream of me eating 11 grams of mushrooms and tripping out, hurling, vomiting all my remorse and guilt and shame, and discovering what they had to offer, these mushrooms. So in this newfound, this is one of these woke type things, because all our lives, if you're around 30, in your 30s or 40s, what's up, Joseph Hessen? Long time no see. Refresh the browser if it happens to be skipping. But when I experience a psychedelic experience now in my adulthood, and I haven't done acid yet, in my post-recovery adulthood. Now I say this because alcoholism and drug abuse stunts one's learning capabilities, it stunts one's emotional growth. It has stunted me for 20 years. I drank my emotions away. I drank at every emotion I ever felt. I ate Xanax, I snorted Xanax, I did all kinds of drugs. I got messed up every time I would feel something, encounter something, dread something, anticipate something. I have never lived as a good planner, because if you've ever been a hopeless drunk before, you can't plan. You don't know where you're going to be. You don't even know if you're going to be out of jail or in detox or passed out or even alive. And yes, it gets that tough if you're wondering, but I doubt any of you are, because you're much like me. You've experienced too many consequences with your drug of choice, thus coming to the conclusion that it is a bona fide addiction. This is one thing that psychedelics will allow you to see, is another perspective. I like to say I'm not the type that gets in denial. But guess what? I am. It's just my denial is different than another person's denial, as is everybody's. At 18, I said, sure, I'm an alcoholic. And I said, I'll quit when I'm 25. 25 rolled around, I said, I'll quit when I'm 30. 30 rolled around, I ended up quitting when I was like 36. But my perspectives on life and addiction and alcohol and social everything were fixed. This is called set in your ways. As you grow, and Joseph, you probably know what I'm talking about, and a couple of you more might have accumulated some wisdom with your years. But when I was 18, 20, 25, even 30, and even today, but especially as a young person, I was not ready for new perspectives. As I am now, I was not as ready. Now get this, I've found so much value in new perspectives, and that is, in my opinion, as of now, that is the main thing that at least mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms or magic mushrooms or shrooms, they have to offer you this: a chance at a different perspective at your problems or your life. It might not even be a problem. For example, those of you who are looking forward to my Friday live stream, well, I'm sorry, but in my coffee, getting ready for the live stream Friday, I took a bunch of stems from I have a jar of shrooms. It's been hanging around for a year. That's one reason I know it's not addictive. I couldn't have booze in my refrigerator for a year, let alone a week. Well, anyway, I put a bunch of stems in my stone grinder, and I mean a bunch of stems. And I said to myself, let's do a little experiment and see if the stems, contain a reliable amount of psilocybin. Well, I blasted off so much so that I could barely put words together. So I didn't do the live stream. But what I did do, oh, well, thank you, Joseph. What I did do is go through it again. I haven't done a large dose of mushrooms in a while. And this one ended up being a large dose, or at least a large dose of psilocybin, because it was probably about 6 or 7 stems. And I crushed them up into like the finest powder you could. I crushed them up and then put them in my coffee. Didn't get any stomach aches. For those of you who don't know, the best way to take psilocybin mushrooms is dried and soak them in some coffee, lemon juice, or even soda might work, orange juice. Citric acid cooks it so your stomach doesn't have to get all upset. So my pint. If you have to do something, Lorena says, well, I didn't do anything. I did AA. And you know what? I may crash and burn and end up drinking and going homeless and everything. I'll tell you one thing. The weed has made me kind of lazy, and I kind of but whatever. I'm getting on top of that. See, weed, I think is... Okay, so we're gonna definitely cover cannabis in recovery this week. Okay, so also I don't know if the link is in the, actually scroll down through the description. I put a link to the article from which I'm reading. Oh wait, that's tomorrow's stream, never mind. The description of this video has some information that might be relevant. That is relevant, and it might also have the link. Lemon juice, yeah, Matub, 20 minutes, lemon juice. I've found that hot coffee cooks it in like 5. The point is, mushrooms got to be cooked, or else your stomach can't digest them. Human being's stomach can't digest raw mushrooms, so that's where the nausea, and I've experienced constipation the next couple of days. You know, in case you wanted to hear about my butthole. Bill Wilson. Let's read what it says. Let's read on. This reader says, I knew the whole story except for the most interesting part. For real. I have theorized. Now, when I was going through AA and not considering any drugs at all, because that is necessary in early sobriety, in my opinion, and don't date or have sex, because that can be a substitute for your drug of choice. If you were slamming heroin and you stop, you get detoxed and like you're in the weak, you're in the clear, you're gonna want the heroin, but you're gonna be doing shit like eating mad sugar, candy, you're gonna be swiping on Tinder looking for sex, you're gonna be watching Netflix, not wanting to do anything that doesn't have like a heroin type serotonin dopamine rush. So anyway, Wilson's personal experience foreshadowed compelling research today. Stephen Ross, hey, Stephen Foss. Stephen Ross, a psychiatrist specializing in addiction at Bellevue Hospital. That's the name of the hospital I was born in. And New York's university is part of a cohort of researchers examining the therapeutic uses of psychedelics, including psilocybin and LSD. Early in his career, he was fascinated by studies of LSD as a treatment for alcoholism done in the mid-20th century. Ross tells in verse, the name of the article, the publication writing this article, he was shocked to learn about Wilson's history. Ross says, I learned a ton about AA and 12-step groups. I knew all about Bill Wilson. I knew the whole story, he says, except for the most interesting part. In AA, mind-altering drugs are often viewed as inherently addictive and troublesome, and for good reason, by the way, especially for people already addicted to alcohol or other drugs. While antidepressants are now considered acceptable medicine, any substance with more immediate mind-altering effects is typically not. You've heard me say on this channel, as a matter of fact, a week ago I had a stream on SSRIs and antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication that is non-mind altering or non-mood altering, in the sense that I could take 30 Prozac and never get high, probably get sick. But if I find out somewhere that you can get high on Prozac, I can't have it in my house. So that's what he means by mind altering. SSRIs, I think, actually are a excellent tool. A supplemental tool for people in recovery. I've done streams on it. I have my notes, and they are extensive. It's like night and day. The mood, the dopamine, the will to go on, passion in things. You just don't even. When I'm off the stuff, fluoxetine, Prozac. When I'm off the stuff, I don't even feel like passionate about anything. The times where I wasn't streaming and doing this channel and addiction recovery and all that, a lot of those times I was off of, well, the most recent time I was off of Prozac. So, the choice between sobriety and the use of psychedelics as a treatment for mood disorders is false and harmful. No one illustrates why better than Wilson himself. How Bill Wilson came to take LSD. Between 1933 and 1934, Wilson was hospitalized for his alcoholism 4 times. After his 3rd admission, he got the belladonna cure, a treatment made from a compound extracted from the berries of a tropobelladonna bush. Also known as deadly nightshade, belladonna is an extremely toxic hallucinogenic. You know, I hear that about morning glory flowers. After taking it, Wilson had a vision of a chain of drunks all around the world helping each other recover. This spiritual experience would become the foundation of his sobriety and his belief that a spiritual experience is essential to getting sober. It was also the genesis of Alcoholics Anonymous. Later, LSD would ultimately give Wilson something his first drug-induced spiritual experience never did: relief from depression. He would come to believe LSD might offer other alcoholics the spiritual experience they needed to kickstart their sobriety. But before that, he had to do it himself. Oh man, so it says like many others, Bill's first experience with LSD happened because he knew a guy. In Wilson's case, the guy was British philosopher, mystic, and fellow depressive Gerald Hurd. Wilson and Hurd were close friends, and according to one of Wilson's biographers, Francis Hartigan, Hurd became a kind of spiritual advisor to Wilson. LSD's origin story is lore in its own right. In 1938, that's a year before AA was founded, Albert Hofmann, or the book was written, I'm not sure which, Albert Hofmann synthesized and ingested the drug for the first time in his lab. Because LSD produced hallucinations, 2 other researchers theorized it might provide some insight into delirium tremens, a form of alcohol withdrawal so profound it can induce violent shaking and hallucinations. Check out Soberdelic James's work on delirium tremens. I talk about my seizure and my experience with it. In 1956, Heard lived in Southern California and worked with Sidney Cohen, an LSD researcher. Heard was profoundly changed by his own LSD experience and believed it helped his depression. Around this time, he also introduced Wilson to Aldous Huxley, who was also into psychedelics. Huxley wrote about his own experience on mescaline in The Doors of Perception about 20 years after he wrote Brave New World. It's important to note that during this period, Wilson was sober, but in his book on Wilson, Harridan claims that the seeming success researchers like Cohen had in treating alcoholics with LSD ultimately piqued Wilson's interest enough to try it for himself. Because, in addition to his alcohol addiction, Wilson lived with intractable depression. Hartigan writes Wilson believed his depression was a result of the lack of faith and a lack of spiritual achievement. When word got out Wilson was seeing a psychiatrist, the reaction for many members was worse than it had been to the news he was suffering from depression. As these members saw it, Bill's seeking outside help was tantamount to saying the AA program didn't work. So, the damaging attitude is still prevalent among some members of AA. The old-timers is what we call them. Alcoholism is an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. AA is an offshoot of the Oxford Group, a spiritual movement that sought to recapture the power of the first century Christianity in the modern world. Well, we're going to continue the theme of psychedelics in recovery for the rest of the week. Tomorrow's live stream is psychedelics in recovery. And I'd also like to cover some of these integrative treatments that you can go to, psychedelic integrative treatments. The LSD and psychedelic story is a political one. And we're, those who have taken psychedelics, I would venture a guess, all have a similar or same belief that it was a spiritual experience like no other. And Bill Wilson, if you're not familiar with AA, it's a 100-year-old organization, profitless. The only requirement is a desire to stop drinking. I owe my personal recovery from alcoholism directly to AA. That is evolving, but I'll never forget what AA has taught me and done for me, and I won't ever stop going. But they say never. We'll talk tomorrow on psychedelics in recovery. You know, there's more people at the end of these streams than there are in the beginning. I wonder why. Tobacco shapeshifter, yeah, nicotine. When I can take it or leave it sometimes. Mushrooms gave me the knowledge that the decision is mine. The power is mine. In fact, not only to quit nicotine, but to do whatever I want. Shrooms made me stop drinking, 24-year-old alcoholic, Future said, and stop smoking weed consistently. Good for you. That's a great time to quit. E.T., you all right, brother? Gazingo took LSD on Easter to get reborn. It was a nice reset. That's what I'm talking about. Well, we're going to talk about it tomorrow, too. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when I do my weekdaily, on the weekdays, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, addiction recovery, and everything that is between. I'm James. I've been sober from alcohol and alcoholism for almost 7 years. And check out my videos if you want to know what it did to me. Death, jails, and institutions. This week we'll be talking about psychedelics and it's their contribution to mental health and mental health's contribution to sobriety and recovery from alcoholism and other deadly behavioral addictions. All right, y'all. Well, I'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until then, keep it clean, keep it real, keep doing the damn thing. Peace.